Hi everyone, this is a video comparison between the Microsoft Lumia 640 versus the Alcatel OneTouch Fierce 2, both from MetroPCS. And we're going to start with the Microsoft Lumia 640. The OS that is using it is Windows Phone 8.1, and the Alcatel OneTouch Fierce 2 it is using Android version 4.4. The Lumia 640 weighs 5.11 ounces or 145 grams. The Fierce 2 weighs 5.26 ounces or 149 grams. The Lumia 640 has a screen of 5 inches, and the Fierce 2 also has a screen of 5 inches. The resolution of the Lumia 640 it is 720 by 1280 pixels, and the Fierce 2 it is 540 times 960 pixels. The pixel density of the Lumia 640 it is 294 ppi, and the Fierce 2 it is 220 ppi. Screen to body ratio for the Lumia 640 it is 67.65%, and for the Fierce 2 it is 68.01%. Some of the features for the Lumia 640, we have light sensor, proximity sensor, scratch resistant glass, and for the Fierce 2 we have light sensor and proximity sensors. Now we're going to jump into the rear camera. For the Lumia 640 it has a 8 megapixel rear camera with LED and speaker at the bottom. The Fierce 2 has a 5 megapixel camera with LED and speaker at the bottom. Some of the features for the Lumia 640 rear camera, we have face detection, digital zoom, back illuminated sensors, BSI, autofocus, and geotagging. And for the Fierce 2 we have autofocus. Some of the settings for this Lumia 640, we have exposure compensation, ISO control, white balance presence, and shutter speed control. Some of the shooting modes for the Lumia 640, we have burst mode, high dynamic range mode, HDR, scenes, and effects. Now for the camcorder on the Lumia 640, it records in 1920 by 1080, that is 1080p HD, 30 frames a second. For the Fierce 2, it records at 1280 by 720, that is 720p HD. Some of the features for the Lumia 640, we have continuous autofocus, video light, video sharing, and video calling. Now for the front-facing camera for the Lumia 640, we have 0.1 megapixels, that's considered to be 1 megapixel. For the Fierce 2, we have a resolution of 0.3 megapixel, that's considered to be VGA quality. Now we're going to jump into the hardware. For the system chip on the Lumia 640, we have a Qualcomm Snapdragon 400, and for the Fierce 2, we have a Qualcomm Snapdragon 200. For the processor on the Lumia 640, we have a quad-core clock at 1.2 GHz, and for the Fierce 2, we have a quad-core clock at 1.2 GHz. For the system memory on the Lumia 640, we have 1 GB of RAM, and for the Fierce 2, we also have 1 GB of RAM. For the built-in storage on the Lumia 640, we have 8 GB of internal memory, and for the user, we have available 5 GB. For the Fierce 2, we have 4 GB of internal memory, and for the user, we have 2 gigs. For the storage expansion for the Lumia 640, it supports micro SD up to 128 gigs, and for the Fierce 2, it supports micro SD up to 32 gigs. Now we're going to be jumping to the battery. The Lumia 640 has a battery capacity of 2,500 milliamps, and the Fierce 2 has a battery capacity of 2,000 milliamps. So this is it, guys. This has been the video comparison between the Microsoft Lumia 640 versus the Alcatel OneTouch Fierce 2, both from MetroPCS. If you like my video, please click that like button. You can also subscribe to my channel so you can get more content. If you have any question, please leave it down below. Thank you for watching my video. Bye bye.